Good morning, everyone. So, for the house rules, please turn off your cameras and microphones at the start of the webinar. During the open forum, you can turn on your microphones and ask for the speaker directly for questions. If you are not comfortable with it, you can use the Zoom chat. Good morning, everyone. So, for the May we request everyone to please settle down as we are about to start the program. Thank you. Also, may we remind the participants to register in the event. So the registration can be found on the presentation shown on your screen. Thank you. Okay, so for the opening prayer, may we call on Bianca Maureen Bula, the Chief Associate of the Academic Affairs, to lead us.
Let us pause for a moment and feel the holy presence of God. For the non-Catholics, please do what is necessary. For the Catholics, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We are truly grateful that we are able to gather like this despite everything that has been happening around us. May you bless our speaker for today, that he may be able to impart knowledge, and for the participants to be able to use their learnings today in their journey to achieve their dreams. For the organizers of this event, may you bless us that we would be able to successfully pull off this event and the succeeding more events to come. We humbly ask for the strength and courage to be able to face whatever it is that we have to face once this crisis is over. This we ask in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Yan. So good morning, everyone. So welcome to the Accounting Research for Methodologies. And I am Joshua Noel B. Chagan, your host for this morning's event. So yun guys, good morning sa inyong lahat. So may question pala ako sa inyo guys. Naligo na ba kayo? Nagsipilyo na ba kayo? Or nag-almusal na ba kayo? Yan. So I guess meron ng nag-almusal, pero meron pa ring nag
Kumakain.
mini almusal lang din, breakfast. Yan. So, I hope kumain na kayo kasi kakailanganin nyo ng maraming energy para ma-absorb ninyo ang mga topics na i-discuss ng ating speaker for this morning. Yan. Guys, so may tanong na naman ako sa inyo. Na-take up nyo na bang accounting research sa inyong respective schools? So, pwede kayo mag-chat dyan sa Zoom chat if ever meron kayong response. So, nakasabi dito kay Alexa Manggubat, just woke up lang daw. Yan. So, good morning. Kay Daniel Dona Tongko, sabi niya, yes. Kay Patricia Veluz, currently taking up na po. Yan. So, good. Bro, sa list of participants na aking nakita is mostly ang mga participants is first years and second years. So, I guess ang pupunta dito is wala pang masyadong background regarding accounting research. Yan. And this webinar is a good opportunity for us to have some knowledge about this topic. Kaya dapat full attention dapat tayo pag makinig kay sir. Okay, so sa amin guys, sa aming school, ang accounting research is matitake up pa namin third year, second sem. Yan, so sa Ateneo yan siya. And I'm happy that this webinar is present in order not including me and also you guys to have background knowledge na din. Para pag dating sa teacher ninyo, may tatanungin siya about accounting research, ay meron kayong maisasagot. Yan. O sabi ni Girly Kueme, wala pa po silang accounting research. Yan. So, nice. This is a good opportunity for you, Girly. Okay. So, while waiting for a speaker, magro-roll call muna ako ng mga different schools na sumali dito. Okay ba yun, guys? Sige. So, on my first list, can I hear your loudest virtual applause? Lyceum Philippines of the Lyceum of the Philippines University. Nandiyan ba kayo, Lyceum of the Philippines University? Tahimik ng Zoom chat ah. Baka wala pa yata sila. Okay, so moving on. Nandito ba ang University of Mindanao, Digos? Yan. Si Precious. Welcome, Precious. O si Prim din. Hi, Prim. Yan. So, pwede kayong mag-ano guys sa upload sign para ma-recognize kayo. Yan. Okay, next up on my list. Nandito ba ang Holy Cross Davao College? Tingin ko wala pa rin sila. Okay, fourth on my list is Jose Maria College. Mag-ingay. Yun, si Gladys Davocol. Ay, si Mitch. Yan. Hi, Mitch. Yan. Okay. Next on my list is Ateneo de Davao University. Nandito ba kayo? Nandito si Marion, Ziana, Katrina, si Alexa. Yan. Welcome si Kyla. Welcome. Nice. So I'm happy now. Si Team Muski rin. Yan, welcome Team Muski. Okay, next is the University of Immaculate Conception. Mag-ingay. Yan, si Edsel, Jevi, Angel. Yan. Sino pa? Tingnan ko nga ang mga participants. Okay, so yun lang sila ang nag-upload. So, Nice. Okay, next is the University of Mindanao, Maine. Nandyan ba kayo? Walang nag-applause ah. So tingin ko may nag-inform din sa akin na meron daw silang quizzes at exams na iti-take. Kaya baka konti lang rin ang makasali. Pero sige lang, baka apas lang din sila. Okay, next up is Corhesu College. Nandyan ba kayo? Si Karil Doran. Ay, Karil? Karil lang ba? Ay, sige, sige. Okay, second to the last on my list is, ito, bago to sila sumali. Kasi sa last webinar natin na a CPA's journey, wala sila. Let's welcome University of Mindanao, Tagum College. Yan, si Baring, si Liana, si Jonalyn. Nice. So welcome guys sa ating webinar series. Yan. And last but not the least is the Assumption College of Nabunturan. Mag-ingay kayo dyan. Si Jonalyn. Sino pa dito? Kine-check ko na ang mga Zoom participants. So sila pa lang yung nag-applause. Yan. So overall, we have 10 schools that attended this webinar. Shout out daw MCM. MCM, ano? MCM si Marcelino Vistal, Niza Latras. MCM daw, let's go! Woo! Yan. So dapat morning guys, dapat full of energy tayo. Kasi we all know morning and the sun is bright. Yan, nakikita ko sa aking living room na the sun is shining bright. Okay. So I'm thankful that you are here and you are attending the webinar. So based sa aking participants count, we have 71 participants currently. And I hope na as the webinar progresses, many students will come and listen. And so, check ko muna guys if ever nandito na ang ating speaker. Yan. Check ko muna. Okay. Wait lang guys. Natin. Tingin ko wala pa rin si sir. Okay, so may tanong pala ako sa inyo guys. Ano yung background niyo regarding sa research? So, ano lang, simple background nung junior high school, senior high school, or baka nag-research na kayo nung elementary ninyo. Kasi ako rin, na-experience ko yung research na yan sa elementary. And sa pagkaalala ko, ang aming research nung sa elementary, grade 6, is nag-experiment kami ng ano ang magiging effect ng urine sa mga bougainvillea plants. So yun siya guys. And simple lang talaga yun guys. And sabi ni Lochita Manabit, no comment. Charot lang. Salamat Lochita. So yan siya guys. So I want to hear from you guys. So before tayo mag-start sa ating talk, because we are still waiting for a speaker. So I want to ask some of you, ano ba yung mga background niyo regarding sa research? Yan. Okay, so you can message on the Zoom group chat, or you can, if you want to tell me directly, you can do so using your microphone. Yan siya, guys. Okay, so maghihintay ako mga 5 seconds. If ever walang mag-share, hassle yun. Si Lochita again, hassle yun. Yes, I can relate. Okay, so magtatawag ako na aking mga kilala dito sa Zoom chat. Sige, so humanda kayo. Okay, how about you, Bianca? Ano ba ang experience mo regarding sa research? Simple, lang, share lang. Yang Kabula, nandyan ka pa ba? Oh, tingin ko wala pa si Bianca, may ginagawa yata. Sige. So, sino ba ang mga kilala ko dito? Alam ko na. Nandito na ba? Sige. Kayla, nandyan ka ba, Kayla? Kayla May Tandu?
Ay, Josh.
Ay, Kayla Marie Tesoro. Sige, Kayla.
Ay, sino ba na Kayla?
Go, Kayla. Ano ba ang experience mo noon regarding sa research? Kayla? Oh, ikaw, Kayla. Sige, go, Kayla. Sorry, marami palang Kayla dito. So, Kayla Marie Tesoro. Sige, Kayla. Ano ba ang background mo regarding sa research?
Ay, of course, siya, struggle. So, maka-stress, pero okay lang man. Makaya lang.
Nice. So, thank you, Kayla. Meron ka bang maalala, Kayla, na title na inyong research na ginawa noon?
Ano ganit title nun? Hindi ko na maalala, Josh. Matagal na.
Sige. Okay lang yan, Kayla. Okay, so, sa akin, guys, sa pag-aalala ko rin, meron kaming isang research na ginawa and it's a qualitative study. And senior high namin yung ginawa. And, title is Tinala Creation, a narrative perspective, creation of Tinala, a narrative story. And, redundant na kayo. So yun siya, guys. And dun sa qualitative study namin, guys, is in-explore namin kung ano yung mga culture ng mga people doon sa Lake Cebu, since doon yun siya ginawa ang tinalak. And ano yung mga tabu na tabu and mga dapat gagawin in creating the tinalak. So yun siya, guys. Senior high school memories ko yun. Qualitative research. Whew. Grabe talaga yun, guys. Nahirapan talaga kami nun sa pag-search sa details regarding tinala. Okay, so check ulit ako, guys, sa mga Zoom participants. If ever nandito na si Sir. Yan! Jackpot tayo. Dumating na si Sir, guys. Okay. So, to introduce our speaker, let me call on Mitch Criza Bulosan, the VP for Communications and Media. Go, Mitch.
Thank you, Josh. I am very honored to introduce to you the guest speaker for today. Our guest speaker is currently the director of the Institute of Economy and Enterprise Studies of the University of Mindanao and its concurrent university statistician. He is also the university's current data analytics focal person. He teaches marketing, entrepreneurship, and research methods in the College of Business Administration, Education, and Research, Inferential Statistics, Quantitative Models for Business Decisions, Market Demand and Sales Forecasting, and International Marketing in the Professional Schools. He coordinates the MBA for OFWs in the United Arab Emirates and Master in Environmental Planning offered to mining engineers around the country. Dr. Mersha finished his Bachelor of Science in Commerce, major in Marketing cum laude from University of Mindanao, Digos College in 2010. His MBA Corporate Management from University of Southeastern Philippines in 2015. His Master in Predictive Analytics, Asset Management and Productivity from Curtin University in Perth, Western Australia in 2019. And recently completed his PhD in Development Research and Administration from University of Southeastern Philippines. He is recently pursuing his master's degree in economics at the University of Mindanao. Without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. John Vion Mersha.
Good morning, everyone. Hello.
Morning, sir.
I can see no faces here, and anyway, even I cannot see any faces now. I know that you are excited to learn for this session, no? Because I was invited to talk about accounting research, and more than that, I would be excited to share the basic steps on how to do research effectively. Because apparently, one of the problems that we're facing now, aside from appreciating our profession, is the lack of appreciation on research. Anyway, pray tell, I want you to unmute yourselves for a while, and then we'll talk about your usual experiences, no? Your usual fears in research. If in case you cannot say it in public, you can actually just chat it and I'll read it. So my question would be like this, no, before I start my talk. What is your first impression about research? Okay, magbabasa tayo ng chat. What could be your first impression, or when you hear the word research, what comes into your mind? Anyone? Okay, according to Danelaine, it's stress. Luchita Manabit says it's complex. According to Sophia Patricia Obenza, it's difficult. It's costly, it's investigation, mag-iisip naman ng problem. No? Problema na nga sa bahay, mag-iisip ka pa ng problema. So collection of data, that's good. Angel says it's time consuming. Wala pa akong naririnig na mga extreme na words. It's financial information, analysis, and interpretation. So may gustong mag-learn ng stats. No? So these things are actually very relatable because I was once like you how many years ago? 15 years ago. Tedious task, yes. So is everyone here, or lahat ba ng andito college students, or there is a mixture of graduate students na or nakapagtapos na ng college? So I assume that you are beginners in research, right? May advanced na ba dito so that I can adjust? Mostly yes. Okay. So my presentation for today will be actually divided into three things. For one, we're going to start with the basics. We're going to define research as its contribution to the existing body of knowledge. That's one. We're going to discuss research as something that is defined in terms of originality. And third one, we're going to discuss, the research in your discipline and how are you going to write appropriately, or to engage in writing in an academic way using the perspective that you have. So if you allow me, I can I share my screen? Okay. So I will first discuss originality in research. Kasi minsan ito yung nagiging issue nating mga students, kasi estudyante ako ngayon. No? So magkaedad lang din naman tayo. So basically, ito sa mga problems natin. No? So how are we going to address two concerns? Us finishing our degrees, finishing our accounting research. And second one, ensuring that our research will be original. That when we say original, that means novel, which means it is something that is new, or it is something that is done in contribution to the existing body of knowledge. Now, I would be discussing originality in research, and this was adapted in the lecture slides of my professor in my PhD class, si Dr. Supremiano Antipolo, who is also the former Vice President for Research Development and Extension of USEP, and he is also original director before in the NEDA in Region 10. So accordingly, this will be the purpose of the topic. So I would be discussing to you, since we're going to aim in helping you to get used to the idea that it is easy to to be original. In fact, it's easy to do research if you are going to be original. So basically, it's something like that. Okay, the coverage includes definitions of originality that are acceptable. So hindi lang pala isa yung definition ng originality, no? So we have lots of definitions of originality. And once you see the definition that suits with what you are doing now, it would be a relief in your part to do research. Okay, so in the statements which most universities have to guide the panel or the panel of examiners or your experts, no, or the people that you are afraid to grill you if in case you will be presenting your research. There is usually some reference to the following keywords. No? So research has to be an unaided work. No? So which means you will be doing it yourself or with a pair or with a group or with group mates, and you're going to do it in your own. So no one will be doing it for you. So it's actually unaided, which means that teachers won't do it for you, won't join you in writing your paper. If in case my teacher na ganon, sana all, no? So it's an unaided work. Second one, it's significant contribution. So when we say significant contribution, that means at the end of the research, you're expected to produce, it is expected that this research can actually touch lives. You were able to delineate your beneficiaries in the significance of the study. So tatanungin kayo ng panel in your proposal state, what's your research for? Para saan ito, who will benefit this, and how could this research change your profession or create an impact to your profession? And of course, originality, which means that dapat ikaw yung nakaisip out from your musings, out from your readings, out from your related literature. Then you come up with an original idea or an idea that you're going to do this because as you observe here in Davao City or in the region where you are now, there is no study that actually explored these variables or explored these situations. Or there is a new change, there is a new legislation that can actually affect our taxation schemes or our filing of taxes, then that would mean that there is no study yet that evaluate these government na intervention or government na legislation. And it would be my pleasure as an accounting student to evaluate this because no one did it so far. So I will be doing this myself. Okay, so quoting Francis in 1976, Phillips and Pew in 1997 argued that you may be original in one of the following 6 ways. So unang una, original ka daw if you set down a major piece of new information in writing for the first time. So if in case you might be acquainted to different terms in accounting. You might have management accounting, management advisory services, financial accounting. How many parts is that? No? We also have cost accounting. We have cost management, internal audit, and whatnot. No, but just recently, no, the concept known as forensic accounting or data-driven accounting information system or analytics in accounting. Those were foreign terms that we were not able to introduce in the past 20 or 15 years. Until recently, there is an intermarriage of IT, there is an intermarriage of statistics with the accounting profession, so that we can detect anomalies in financial systems for the past 20 years. We can detect there are discrepancies in financial statements that were not actually justified or that were seen by artificial intelligence as anomalous, or there are certain introduced concepts in forensic accounting that were not introduced in the past. And you, being an avid researcher or being an eager person to do research, wants to explore on that. Now, that is an example of setting down a major piece of new information in writing for the first time. For one, we have data-driven accounting information system. And accounting information system is such a huge word that it encompasses IT and IS concepts, and it marries accounting and auditing. However, when we say data-driven decision-making in accounting, it's quite a different thing. It's too specific, and no one, or not even international books or textbooks, were able to explore on that. There is accounting information system, there is data-driven decision-making, but when you intermarriage the two phrases, it becomes a different thing, and no one explored on that. And that's setting down a major piece of new information. No? Karang pinakaunag yun nga ikaw ang nag-pioneer. So another example is that you're going to investigate leadership. Napura na taog leadership sa ato ang business classes. So we have human behavior and organization, conflict management, leadership, transformational leadership, transactional leadership, something like that. Or we have laissez-faire or the laissez-faire na leadership style, or my permissive leadership style. However, no one explored the word toxic leadership. Walang na-explore ng toxic leadership. And when I asked several experts in HR, they actually said na ay wag lang yang toxic leadership kasi tsaka pakinggan, kumbaga kanang negative kaayo, dapat leadership, dapat positive lang yun. Yung ang thinking nga itong mga Filipinos na mahilig tayo mag-cover up. So wag kayong ganyan sa accounting ha. So we have the penchant to just dwell on the positive issues, and we don't have to dwell with the negative issues. Now, in research, it's not something like that. Even if it's negative and it's the first time, you have to do research. And that could be your contribution to the existing body of knowledge. Okay, second one, we can ask questions. You can ask questions in chat if in case you're interested to ask. No. Second one is continuing a previously original piece of work. So my original piece of work ng isang researcher, he or she or they were not able to polish it, or they were not able, they just stopped in introducing the concept. They did not continue the exploration on the factors or dimensions or antecedents or causes and consequences of that. Then that becomes a qualified approach of originality. So if you want to continue the work of someone who works on toxic leadership, and he or she or they were able to work on it as an introduction lang, but you were able to understand the dimensions or antecedents or consequences of this toxic leadership, then that piece of work or that research can be considered also original. Bakit? Because hindi mo man kinopya yung idea nila. Ang ginawa mo is you continued them, you advocated what they have advocated, and then you were able to cite them as the founding theories of that theory, and you were able to make it or enrich those concepts, then that's also original. So that can be considered an original piece of work. So kung ganyan kayo, kung may nakita kayo na magandang study, tapos nakita niyo, parang US lang man ito na concept, or parang it's just like an Indian concept, or like it's just a Japanese concept. Like Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese concept. But when someone from HR in the Philippines use that as an HR concept, then that's an example of continuation of a previously original piece of work, or a concept from a foreign concept, and then you adapt on it and continued its work here in the Philippines or here in our locality. So it's good. Third one is carrying out original work designed by the supervisor, by your thesis advisor. So naman yung mga students no nga kanang totally it's between the two, no, they're totally clueless on what to do. Or second one, they have an idea, they just don't, it's so dirty lang and it's so kalat, and no one actually tempers it down to a much workable level. So it's actually necessary that we consult someone, a supervisor or your dean or a thesis coordinator or your advisor. So if in case aprubahan kayo ng panel ninyo na, oy, wag lang yung topic ninyo kasi gasgas na yan. Ito lang yung topic kasi ang expert nito si doctor ganito or si professor ganito or si Mr. ganito. So, anong nangyari, nilapitan niyo siya. So, ang sabi ninyo, so sir, kayo na yung expert na ganito. So, can we work on that research of yours, or can you design a research agenda for us so that we can write on it? So it's actually okay, no? So I'm actually doing this one. I'm practicing this one because carrying out original work designed by me can actually be an original writing or an original research by my students. In fact, in the University of Mindanao where I'm working, ganyan yung agenda ko eh, because I am known for this type of research. So for example, when you say Dr. Morsha or JV Morsha, these are the research agenda of JV Morsha. And those who wants to be a research associate or a research advisee of Dr. Morsha could just adjust on this research agenda. So kung ang study would be about learning analytics or predictive analytics and data science, or could it be services marketing, or it could be conjoint analysis or market survey, JV Morsha automatic yan. So lahat ng mga interesado niyan pupunta sa akin and we could just discuss what research agenda will they do, even if they're undergraduate like you. So like for example, someone is interested to study about consumer buying behavior during sales in Lazada, kanang na impulsive buying behavior and using technologies or using Lazada or Wish apps to buy that, and what could be the reason or the motivation of those people to buy from Lazada during sales. That could be under my expertise, under services marketing and under data analytics applied to marketing. So JV Morsha yan. If in case pupunta yan sa ibang professor, sasabihan niya, oh, that's not my research agenda. Kasi this research agenda that you want can be improved if you will choose this supervisor. However, even if ako yung supervisor, that's not my paper. It's still your paper. I'm an expert of that, but I will be your supervisor. I would be supervising you. I would be directing you on what to do. Ito yung specific tools. Minsan magbibigay ako ng mga possible articles na babasahin ninyo. But at the end of the day, you will be your that would be your thesis. That would be your manuscript. That's not mine. I could just certify it as it passes my standards. Okay na ito. So pwede na ito i-defend sa panel. Okay? Next one is providing a single original technique or observation or results in an otherwise but competent piece of research. So this example is actually good for those who want to engage in statistics. So by profession, I'm a marketing graduate. So, but originally before I shifted to marketing because I shifted in my second year. I was once a management accounting student in UMDigos, but accounting 1 and accounting 2 seems to be sufficient for me. So sorry for that, but accounting is not for me. But then when I reached my MBA, I was forced to study accounting again because financial management. My major is corporate management. That means I have to deal with financial statements, analysis of financial statements, corporate finance, controllership. So I have to study again, and I have no choice but to love accounting again. Now, going back to this, it would become something, if you deviate from the path that you have chosen. I'm a marketing graduate, but then I decided to do statistics. I became a university statistician. When you say university statistician, that means you had all statisticians in the university. And I was appointed at age 25, heading all statisticians who are older than me, like 50s or 40s or 60, even 60 or 30 plus, something like that. So why did that happen? Because during my master's, I was trained to run statistical analysis. Now, nakita na ko nga, job satisfaction, kung mayroon tawag job satisfaction, pura na kaayo mi ana nga mga panel magsigig basa o mga job satisfaction surveys. Uy, ka na magsige na lang what is the level of job satisfaction in terms of compensation. Kita man yung mga trabahante, kaming mga trabahante, wa man gyud tay satisfaction sa atong sweldo. Even if 50,000 or 60,000, we could just elevate our lifestyle and then we settle. We're actually saying na di gyapon enough atong sweldo. So that kind of concept is actually very defunct already. But then somebody did what she did is she compared the differences of job satisfactions according to gender. So tan-awon niya kung kinsa ang mas satisfied, lalaki ba na worker or babae na worker. Or ang ginawa niya is gi-differentiate niya ang gi-test niya ang differences sa level of job satisfaction between religions or between age bracket or between those who graduated masters, sorry, bachelor and PhD. And nakakita siya og gwapo kaayo nga pattern sa data. So what happened is, uy, mas satisfied ining mga master's degree compared sa mga bachelor's degree. Ano kaya iniing-ani, no? So nag-investigate me, further corroborate me sa iyahang data, and we found out nga kasagaran din sa generations, mga bachelor's degree karon is coming from fresh graduates who are very idealistic. That's why they try to look for more, because they believe that they have the skills and the competencies that current workers do not have. So kana pa lang siya nga kana ganing obs technique nga imong gi-differentiate ang level sa job satisfaction compared atong nag-measure lang ka sa level of job satisfaction, actually an original piece of work. Why? Because you were able to produce a new idea out from an original but acceptable piece of research work. Katong level na to, job satisfaction level sa employees, that's very unoriginal, no? Kumbaga, gas-gas na yan. However, what you did is you actually did a statistical analysis that is not the same as with a statistical analysis that they did, and then you found out a different pattern of data. Then that means mangutana ka sa ko, sir, nagkuan ko, sir, ba test for independent samples ko, tapos nag one-way analysis of variance. Pag human, sir, nagkuan ko, nag-Pearson chi-square ko, test of association. Kaya sa una, level naman to, sir, na nakita na ko, sir, nga na pattern, sir, no? Kung female worker ka, mas satisfied ka sa ing-ani compared sa ing-ani. So kana siya, katong information nga na-draw out niya, that information that was drawn out from that statistical analysis is considered to be an original idea. Original siya na idea coming from not original na topic. Number 5. So having many original ideas, methods, and interpretations all performed by others under the direction of postgraduates. So this is applicable with master's research, no? So for example, it's actually a common thing when you go to Australia or when you go to a higher university or a uni in Australia. So for example, in my case, my supervisor is Professor David Gibson, who is a UNESCO Data Science Chair for Learning Analytics in Curtin. That's the only facility of learning analytics found in Western Australia. And I'm working on learning analytics in universities like Ateneo, like like USEP. So what happened is, since master student man ko na, doctor man siya, so ang nangyari is, he also has doctoral students whom he supervises for 2 or 3 years. So what happens is, since I cannot talk directly to David Gibson, what happens is he assigned me to a particular PhD student who works on the same thing, but in the context of Singapore. So I'm working with that postgraduate, and we shared materials, and I was able to help that postgraduate student in his writing. And what he did is actually coach me to contextualize his findings in the Philippines, in the case of University of Mindanao. So what happened is, he is not my supervisor, he is considered my co-supervisor, but then my paper, which is Learning Analytics in University of Mindanao, is still considered original, considering that even if it comes from Learning Analytics in a Singaporean university, and even if it's under David Gibson, your student paper, your chosen context is yours. So you just introduce them what makes University of Mindanao different, what makes them unique in such a way that it's still considered as your original work. And finally, number 6. So showing originality in testing somebody else's idea. So somebody has an idea, but they don't have the faculty, they don't have the capability and the competency of doing that research. So for example, ako ang friend, na iniana siya nga, something, ito na nga pimi, I'm sorry, is there any non-Visayan speakers here? Anyone? Okay, I'll just assume that everyone is Filipino, is Tagalog, so I will just speak in Tagalog. Nung nung pumunta kami sa coffee shop, nung nagkakape kami ng friend ko, and tapos he is still doing his bachelor's thesis. Ang sabi niya sa akin, "Sir, what if kaya sir no ganito ganyan ganyan? Itong yung variable na ito sir kay i-correlate po sa ganito. Posible kaya yan, sir?" So sinabi ko sa kanya, "Can you do that as your thesis?" Sabi niya, "So hindi ako marunong tapos na ako ng thesis," or something like that. Okay, so I'll be doing that. That's a very wonderful idea. Since I'm capable of doing research of that, then I would be doing a research of that. That's your original idea. What I'm going to do is I will contextualize it. I will use that idea and test it. However, I would involve you in the process, considering that this is your original idea. Sir, okay lang, hindi lang ako magpa-involve, sir, kasi honest idea ko lang man yun. So, okay. So, that's your original idea. I will test it. However, I'm not stealing his idea. What I did is I asked permission to validate his idea in a research. And the research output that comes after that is my original piece of work and not his. Bakit? Because you have the capability to do it and you have the capability to test somebody's idea. However, again, this has a silver line, this has a fine line between testing somebody else's idea with permission and stealing idea without them knowing it. So we have to be very careful with that. So we're going to ensure that our research has ethical considerations in order for us to qualify on this sixth idea. So in later research, no, 1990s pa man to siya. So after that, we pasok ang 21st century, and after 21st century, we are now on the second decade. So na naman ta sa year 2020. No, papasok na tayo sa third decade. No? So in later research, interviews with students, supervisors, and examiners yielded 9 further definitions of how a thesis can be original. So you might want to check on this. So number 1, carrying out empirical work that has not been done before. So this is highly statistical na po. Ano man, parehas atong akong example or kaparehas tong example na binigay ko kanina na unang-una, job satisfaction, always po mini-measure natin yung level, and that has been done many times. No? Even the 1800s, 1900s, there have been empirical studies, informal or formal research studies conducted to measure the satisfaction of workers. However, what she did, or what I did is, permanente na lang man, o palagi na lang na ang instrument ni Cohen and Karash ang ginagamit for job satisfaction. Bakit? Baka hindi na ito applicable sa current context, no? Baka it's 1960s, 1990s na, and we are in the 21st century. So what if job satisfaction pa din yung study ko, but my intention is to create another research scale, or it could be another instrument. So ang ako bang study is development and validation of a new job satisfaction scale in the context of Filipino workers. Sorry. In the context of Filipino workers. 20 seconds, can I get some water, please?
Okay, so let's wait for Dr. John Morcia to come. So baka inom lang yata yung sister ng tubig. Okay. Okay, here goes.
Okay. So next one is yung sabi ko kanina, no, so what if ang ako ang gusto, or what if what I want is to create my own scale. So what I did is I proposed a research entitled Development and Validation of a New Job Satisfaction Scale in the Context of Filipino Workers, because the job satisfaction scale or instrument that was being used for like decades was Western. No, and lahi man yun ang Western workers compared sa Filipino workers. That is my argument. No, they have a different measure and viewpoint about job satisfaction. We have a different context here in the Philippines. That's why it's 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 but right for us to create our own instrument. Okay, so that's an original piece of work. The job satisfaction as a concept, it's not original anymore. But what you did was to create another empirical work, or you continued or carry out an empirical work that has been done or was not done by researchers before. Next one is dito, pang doctoral na ni. So making a synthesis that has not been made before. So if you will go to Google Scholar and you will type the word meta-analysis, so or systematic review. So ang kana nga approach is just getting the pattern of several studies. So unsa man ang meta-analysis or synthesis or systematic review, ang buhaton ana sa researcher, ang gagawin ng researcher is, for example, ang topic niya is gusto niyang malaman kung ano yung dominating na factors that affect quality of life of certified public accountants. So what happened is, nag-conduct siya og meta-analytic review. So ang dami-daming lumabas na mga quality of life studies about workers, like 20,000 of them, and he found out 786 studies concerning certified public accountants. Ginarrow down na po niya into the past 20 years. So, ang nangyari is meron na siyang articles na download na around 300 plus. So, ang gagawin ng researcher na yun is babasahin niya isa-isa. For example, the work of Russell in 2005 stated that this something like that about accountants, and the most pressing issue about quality of life is workload or work volume. So makita niyo volume yung sa kanya. So itatali ko yon, work volume yung sa kanya. Then the work of Bloom and Kitigawa in 1999 said that ganito, ganyan. So ang kanilang pronouncements naman is about salary. Quality of life is about compensation. So compensation dito. So i-inventory, i-table ko yung lahat, ang 300 na yan, and I will do patterns. No, I will check the patterns kung ito ang sa kanila ang context ng certified public accountants nila is it's in the context of those who are working for 10 to 15 hours a day. Tapos ito yung issues nila. So katong mga around 6 to 8 hours, ito naman yung issue nila. So ang ginawa mo, yung data mo is ang findings ng mga research articles available in the databases. And then what you just made is just a synthesis. You just get the pattern of what they have written and then write a research about it. And that's still original. It's called meta-analysis, or in a qualitative touch, it's called systematic review. Meta-analysis is quite quantitative. You're going to check on the sample size of these studies, and then systematic review is you're looking on the actual qualitative idea of these research. Okay, number 3, baka nabobore na kayo, so magko-computation tayo, no? Later. So, okay, number 3, using already known material but with a new interpretation. So, yung kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, Cohen and Karash ang ginagamit for job satisfaction. Pero ang ginawa ko, hindi ko na mini-measure yung level. Ang ginawa ko is, vinalidate ko ang Cohen and Karash na 36 item scale in the context of Filipino workers. And I was able to extract valid 28 out of that 36. The remaining na hindi siya na-include, those are non-relevant or that's too foreign or not included in the context of Filipino workers. So my new scale, or the Cohen and Karash scale of job satisfaction, is 28 items in the context of Filipinos and 36 items in the context of Western workers. So what I did is tested his idea with my new methodology, or my methodology, and then produce a research out from it, and that's still considered original. Number 4 is trying out something in this country that has previously only been done in other countries. Yung kada ganing concept of different concepts like Kaizen, i-adapt sa Philippines, yung gross national happiness na study. No? It's in Bhutan, but it was applied in public administration studies here in the Philippines. Naa po yung mga studies about e-governance. No, it started with uh, first world countries or developed countries, and then we adapted it if in case we are capable to such innovation. So kana siya, like gi-apply siya sa Japan, wala mo ko nakita ani sa Philippines or wala akong nakitang study na nasa Pilipinas that talks about the same study that I read from Japan. So what I did is, since alam ko naman kung paano gawin, I tried adapting the same instrument here, and then I conducted a study, and the output of that is still considered original. Tayo pang mga Pilipino, mahilig tayong kumopya. No? So it's very convenient for us to just copy. However, there's an assurance that which even if you adapted it from other countries and then you use it here, for as long as you were able to be ethical in conducting your research, it's still considered to be something worth of review. Maganda naman yung research na at least kinuha mo sa labas tapos kinontextualize mo dito, and then you found out a very wonderful result that is actually similar or a little bit deviating from the results of others. 5, taking a particular technique and applying it in a new area. So for example, exploratory factor analysis or skill development is a statistical technique. No, I learned that in my master's. Now, the exploratory factor analysis is also has been used in psychology. No, it's been used in developing instruments to measure to measure behavior. You know, it's used in psychological assessments or psychometrics. However, right now, EFA can actually be used in accounting studies. You wanted to know the dimensions or the indicators of ethical practices or ethical practice of accountants, and you don't know the dimensions that characterize an ethical practice of an accountant. You can use that technique. Even if it's used in psychology, you can still use that in accounting studies, and that's still fine, and that's still considered original. Number 6, bringing new evidence to bear on an old issue. So for example, there is an old issue that has an outcome, and after how many years somebody else debunked its claim based on new evidences. It doesn't mean that the original issue or the old issue is it's an original issue. However, the one that debunked or claimed an evidence on an old issue and bring evidence on it, it's also considered an original piece of work. Why? Because your evidences, your data, and your discussions are yours, even if it's an old issue. So what you did is just analyze the old issue, bring new evidence or bring statistical evidence or whatnot, and then you introduce that to the public. Your research is considered to be original as well. So being cross-disciplinary and using different methodologies. Sa accounting kasi is usual, in the University of Mindanao, ang usual na ginagamit ng mga studies are secondary data. So they study stock markets, they study financial statements, they usually analyze financial statements using several descriptive statistics. So pwede tayong maging cross-disciplinary. So if in case meron tayong accounting yung study natin, we can introduce or inject human resource concepts with that. We can inject IT, we can inject financial management or financial studies, or we can also use kini ganing kalimutan ko yung term, yung sa insurance my term for insurance studies it's highly mathematical in nature. So for example, accounting yung discipline mo, i-integrate mo yung mathematical concepts, i-integrate mo yung economic concepts, and then publish a research on it. It's actually acceptable as well. So, for example, one of my advisees, ang study niya is about they are actually accounting students. Their study is about technical efficiency or the evaluation of the technical efficiency of publicly listed real estate companies in the it's not publicly real estate. It's a thrift banks in the Philippines. So thrift banks might publish yan na financial information. They get they were able to acquire several financial information that are considered to be inputs and then outputs. What they did in the analysis is to apply econometrics. No, they applied data development analysis to analyze financial data. So it's accounting, it's banking studies, and it's econometrics in one paper. So that's also original. So number 8 is looking at areas that people in the discipline have not looked at before. So you might want to engage in uh, other concepts. No, for quality of life, you might want to consider social capital, psychological capital, employee mental health, well-being. So those are studies that might relate with quality of life or quality of work life. And then you might want to correlate those variables, and you might want to involve Filipino workers or Filipino respondents in your study. So it's a new study. It's involving a different respondent set, and that becomes original as well. And number 9 is adding to knowledge in a way that has not been done before. So this is actually and it encompasses other techniques that we were not able to cover in the previous definitions. Okay, so in summary, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss issues about originality in research. I will be entertaining questions from everyone, after this presentation, and I will proceed to the next. If in case you'll indulge me with another 30 minutes, I'll be introducing academic writing and research for accounting. Okay, we have obtained a total of 15 different definitions of originality. 15 originality definitions. So it could be reassuring in your part, which means that you will have no excuse, or the panel could have no excuse to disapprove your research, because we have 15 original definitions of what a research is. So it is much easier to be original in at least one of the 15 possible ways than it is to be singularly original. So mas sayon, no? Mas madali po na maging original kasi 15 yung definitions kumpara sa isa lang yung definition ng originality. So anyway, you can unmute yourselves and you can ask questions or raise issues, and then we'll have like 10 minutes of Q&A before we proceed to the next topic.
Yan. So if ever may questions kayo guys, you can use the Zoom chat guys to communicate with sir. Meron ba kayong mga questions dyan guys?
Ay, meron yan sila kasi mag-quiz ako after.
Sir,
Yes. Yes, Niza.
kung ang isang kunwari ang isang nag-research may ang idea sa kanya, pero you also have an other idea, tapos in-incorporate mo siya sa studies mo. So is it still considered as original research?
May idea yung friend mo, may idea ka rin, in-incorporate mo yung idea niya sa research mo.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so actually, pasok yan sa criteria ng originality. However, you need, out of ethics, you need to inform her that, uy, yung idea mo, in-incorporate ko sa idea ko kasi it seems to be very good. No? So, pwede yun. However, when you steal it from her or him, and her didn't know what you have done, you cannot get away from murder. You cannot get away from the crime. So you also need to also inform him or her out of ethics. Kasi mag-aaway kayo. But for originality's sake, it's considered okay. Because what you did is infusion, which means you have an idea, you infuse another idea or a lot of ideas in your idea, and that's okay.
Is it not possible to have a joint or collaboration research?
Pwede po. You can do that. Like for example, uy, maganda yung idea mo, may idea din ako, so tayong dalawa, collaborate tayo. Yes, that's better. That's actually the win-win solution for two ideas that cannot go na original, and then you want to get into a compromise or to have a consensus. So it's fine.
Is there any specific name of that or calling for that collaboration? Like,
Uh, is this a student research, or is this a faculty research, or is this more than that?
it depends on the situation.
It depends on the situation. Kasi kung students kasi, unang-una, kung sa university students, they're groups. They're doing individual research, they're doing group research. What you actually insinuate is that, is it possible to do collaboration? In student research, it's possible, especially when that's on the same group. Pwede din naman siya separate groups, but there should be a consensus on the coverage of the research that they have. If in case these are joint ideas, ang gusto lang nila is i-test itong idea in a different context, it's fine. I-test ito in a different context, but same idea, but different context, it's fine. So I also did something like that in my class. Isang title lang lahat. No? They have 15 groups. They actually investigated the relationship of these variables in different contexts. So X and Y applied to BPO, X and Y applied to ganito, X and Y applied to ganito, X and Y applied to schools. So pwede yon.
What about
However, if in case we're talking here of
organization or
organizations, you just have to agree. You just have to agree. It can be you will engage in a MOU or MOA or something like that, or you can just sign a contract or agreement that actually delineates that you're actually joining or participating or engaging or collaborating in a research idea, where your ideas can be considered as one, and that you are collectively accountable to that research.
okay. Sorry, sir, because I'm a second courser. So
It's fine. No worries.
okay, thank you.
No worries. Next, Angela. Angela Marie Baula, you are unmuted. So do you have any questions? Wala na yung mag-ask of questions. Mag-quiz ba ako after?
So, may question pa ba kayo, guys?
Wala. Tignan natin. Sige daw. You still have like 6 minutes to ask questions. Kasi ang susunod is we're going to study about, I think, di ba, ang full title nito is Research for Accounting Students.
Accounting research methodologies, sir.
Okay, so methodology. So the word methodology is very mahaba, no? So unang-una, kailangan na-introduce muna yung concept, then afterwards you introduce the different methods, and then academic writing, no? Tips for academic writing, that's part of the methodology kasi yung pagsusulat is another methodology. And finally, we're going to do some sample size computations para naman ma-stretch yung ating, para naman ma-practice natin yung ating computational capability. Kasi for accounting, usually it's plus minus times division, something like that. They have that notion about accounting. Ang gagawin natin, we're going to use some formula and then we're going to compute sample size in order for you to be guided on the representation of your sample to the population. Okay. Any concerns? Sige, I think were you ready for the next lesson? Are you ready?
I think they're ready na, sir, since wala nang questions, sir.
Baka si Ma'am Niza meron pa siyang pahabol na inquiry.
Wala na, wala na.
Wala
If I
na,
have,
okay.
I'll call you directly.
Okay, sige. Okay, let's proceed with academic writing na, no? Kasi, writing research would be different with literary writing, ranting in Facebook. Different yung research eh. And ang dami-dami ng mga media companies right now or media outfits that terribly failed in communicating research findings because they were not able to write it accordingly or write it in a way that's really intended for the language of researchers like you are. So I would be sharing the academic writing slides that I had with my master's students. So, okay pa ba tayo dyan? So if in case you're okay, just say something in the group chat or in the chat box, and that would mean that you're still here and not sleeping somewhere else. Anyway, let's go back. Okay, so what we're going to do now is a part 2 of 3 topics that I would be discussing. I'm not so sure if it's still allowable now. So anyway, this is an introduction to academic writing, and that's my full name. You know. You can find me in social media by just typing that name. Anyway, sorry. Writing in a university. So what does academic writing look like? Sige, sige daw, if in case you have gone, if you have any idea, do you have do you have any idea on what is academic writing like in the university? Ano yung usual impression natin kapag academic writing? Okay, say something in the chat box. Formal? How formal? Its purpose is to aid the reader's understanding. So ano kaya yung itsura or structure ng academic writing? Can I call some names? Okay, one final answer. Sige, isa na lang. So una, formal. Second one is the purpose is to aid the reader's understanding. Ten seconds. Proper grammar, use of jargons. Okay, very good. No? So at least you're getting there. Now, this is what academic writing looks like in the context of university, or in the context of colleges and universities. So academic writing looks like this. You introduce a concept or an idea which is based from your readings or based from general facts, and then you cite authors or studies or evidences or claims with empirical evidence that actually support that claim, or that actually support your idea, and then you explain those studies, make those as an explanation if it supports your argument in the first sentence. So makita nimo dire, you can see here some studies with evidences and explained the statistical analysis that they had, and then actually concludes that it is an indication that this idea, mindfulness, is being supported. The idea that is stated in the first sentence is actually warranted based on the two studies conducted. So what is different about academic writing compared with the usual composition writing, essay writing? So in essays, usually if in case we're talking here of a composition or a personal essay, there is the actual use of the I, or there is the first person as a point of view in writing because your idea matters. But in academic writing, we need to be cautious with that, considering that we have to address the following elements. First and foremost, we need to address our audience. When you write research, when you write accounting research, is it to impress? Is it to inform? Is it going to inform those who are accounting students, or who are accounting teachers, or those panel members lang ba yung kakausapin or ating pakikitaan ng research? Or is this research intended to inform and educate everyone, even year levels below you? So we have to be very cautious with our writing, considering that we need to have an audience that can appreciate our research. Okay? So how are you going to inform them about cost accounting? How are you going to inform them about bank reconciliation? How are you going to make the writing of the words trial balance and post-closing trial balance to the point that even grade 8, 9, and 10 students can understand that? So academic writing has to capture a specific audience, large enough to create an impact. Okay, back up by evidence follows a certain form. Okay, Number two, tone. So what's the tone of the research? Makita man siguro nato, no? Or we can see that when we read inspirational messages, the tone is much more of an inspiring tone. If in case we're reading the rant of a student who wants to complain about his or her university, taas and lengthy kaayo murag makita gini mo nga. If in case you want to visualize that rant that you are reading, makita na mo kung pwede pa lang namukuha siyang baso na iyang gibuno sa kuan sa wall sa kanyang galit, no? So you can actually detect that in the tone of the writing. But with academic writing, the tone should be formal. No? Okay, the tone should be formal. It should not be kanaganing, it should not be kanaganing harsh. It should not be too festive, no? Or it should sound as if someone is communicating an important piece of work or an important piece of knowledge that everyone should listen to. So the tone is very important here. Third one is the language. Okay, in the chat box, what language do we expect? Not the English or the Filipino one. What language what in what particular communication or written communication do we expect academic writing is? Are we using simple, complicated, literary writing style, business or formal or corporate writing? What do you expect for a research? So we're expecting what type of language? So
Corporate.
kanina may okay, corporate? Ano pa? So again, the language that we're going to use should address our first element, and that's audience. So make sure that your language has to address this audience. If we sound corporate in our research, it's actually becoming a pure business research. Okay? So if your intention is if your intention is to address or to accommodate readers of varied demographics, you're going to make it sure that your language would not be so corporate enough. It would not be so scientific enough na rigid kaayo nga mag-discuss or mag-throw ka na of different coefficients, beta coefficients, standard error of the estimates, maglabay na kadara og mga F values, P values, reject the null hypothesis. Because you're actually making it very scientific, no, to the point that it's not actually becoming understandable. Hindi na siya understandable in that sense. Dili po ta pwede na mo gamit ta og mga highfalutin words nga ginagamit lang nato sa mga picture writing or sa campus journalism. Like mo gamit tag mga words nga kana ganing quantophrenic or tintinabulation or supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, or mo gamit og mga words nga syncophonous. So those types of words are a turn off in academic writing. Because in academic writing, as Janine Sorposa says, it follows a certain format, and Eliza Mangubat says it's the use of jargons. It doesn't have to be like that. So the use of jargons have to be minimized when you want to do a research, when you want to engage in academic writing. But there are profession-based jargons like trial balance, no? Post-closing trial balance, bank reconciliations. Those are actually okay because the use of those technical jargons are okay if you're writing an academic research about your profession. So of course, no, it's also awkward na i-translate nato or ita-translate po natin yung trial balance or i-define pa natin yung trial balance kapag magpapublish tayo sa accounting journal. So of course, everyone who reads an accounting research journal knows what a trial balance is. Even me, if I'm a business graduate, I already know what a trial balance is. And a post-closing trial balance or journalizing entries or something like that, or annuities or interest rates. So you have to be very definitive on what your or who your audience is, because you're going to tailor fit your language in writing. Of course, number 4, content. Ano yung content dapat ng research? Ano kaya ang mga pangalan, ano yung mga labels ng chapters natin sa thesis? Anyone? Ano yung sequence? Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Background of the study. Okay. Chapter 2. Based sa format nyo sa school, ano yung chapter 2? Statement of the problem, review of related literature, RRL, okay. Chapter 3. Methodology. Chapter 4. Results and discussions. Chapter 5. Conclusion. Okay. However, right now, we had followed the conventional 5 format chapters in research. We have chapter 1, the problem and its background, or the background of the study. Chapter 2 is a review of related literature. Chapter 3 is methodology. Chapter 4 is results and discussion. Chapter 5 is summary of findings, conclusions, and recommendations. I mean, they are okay. I have written my research, my bachelor, my master's thesis, my doctoral dissertation in that fashion. However, if we're going to simplify the content of a research, it would be summarized into 4 letters, which is, or 4, it can be summarized into acronyms known as IMRAD. I, M, R, small letter A, and D. So IMRAD, which I'm going to type, I stands for introduction. So introduction contains the background of the study, the justification of the conduct of the study, the problems that you observe about the study, the international, national, and local settings that you have conducted, the statement of the problem, your hypothesis, as well as your related literature. The introduction contains something that sets the tone, sets the need and urgency, and sets the gap of the related literature that pushed you to study that research. So introduction is, or I in IMRAD is introduction. The second one is the method. So the method, or the methodologies, contains the tools, the locale, the instruments, the protocols, the ethical considerations, and the processes of data collection that will address your problem and research gap set in chapter 1. Third one is results. So results can be quantitative and can also be qualitative. So in the case of quantitative studies, results are statistical analysis. It contains tables, graphs, charts, visualizations, trends, comparisons, statistical statements. It can also contain tables, tabular presentations of themes. It can also contain paradigms, and it can also contain patterns. So results are actually the preliminary analysis of the statistical tools that you have proposed in the method. Finally, and discussion. So IMRAD stands for Introduction, Method, Results, and Discussion. Discussion contains your laymanized language, no? Ito yung you translate the statistics, no, which is too numerical by nature, too scientific in nature, into something that is easy to read. Kung may significant relationship ito, what do you mean by significant relationship in chapter 4? So you discuss that. No? You're going to cite authors based in your related studies. Were you able to, so were these studies able to confirm your study, or are your results confirming the previous findings of past authors? And then after that discussion, that also includes your conclusion. Conclusion and recommendation. Now take note that conclusion only discusses your test of inference. Okay? Conclusion is only applicable when you use inferential statistics. If in case you discuss significance of the relationship, significance of the difference, significant influence, significant mediation, significant fitting of the models, you're going to conclude, because conclusion is actually a process of inferring from your sample, which is representative of a population. You cannot conclude by merely describing, because mere description is not inferential statistics. So conclusion addresses something, kung sa quantity niya siya or quantitative research, it addresses what you have tested in your hypothesis. Recommendations, on the other hand, are things that should address your beneficiaries in the significance of the study. So if in case you found out that there is a low level of ganito na variable which is deemed to be lower than the standards, what are you going to do to increase to that, to be at par with that standard, or to be beyond, or to be higher with that threshold? Or if in case may significant relationship yung mga variables, what happens, or what now? So if you increase this variable to increase this variable, so anong gagawin natin? So we're going to make it sure na we're going to sustain our efforts here so that we can still increase this variable or decrease this variable, whatever the context is. Now that's the content. Now we have IMRAD plus references and appendices. Now, when I wrote my dissertation in Curtin, I'm expecting that it could be very makapal, no? Kasi before, the more makapal yung hardbound mo, the more daw na, grabe, ang galing, no? But the trend now is this. The more nipis ang imuhang hardbound, the more ka hawod. That's the trend now. Because you were able to fully use your literature in a way that your related literature has been used to its purpose. No, you were able to use that in your discussion. Kasi kapag makapal masyado yung research mo, ang suspicion namin here is that you were just copy-pasting your related literature. And you were not really able to use these authors to contextualize your results. And you were not able to produce quite a good discussion. Okay? So, nung una, competition namin ng mga classmates ko, yung isang classmate ko, umabot siya ng 200 pages, yung isa umabot ng 150 pages, yung isa umabot siya ng 111 pages, yung isa umabot siya ng around 150 to 200 pages. Ako, yung number of pages ko sa aking dissertation was only 4. The content from chapter 1 to chapter 5 was only 60, and the appendices is like 20, 30, so hindi siya umabot ng 100 pages. My study was, I created a livability index, no, to rank Philippine cities, kung sino yung pinaka-most livable. But don't worry, Davao City in my livability index is rank 3. Rank 1 is Puerto Princesa, rank 2 is Lucena City, and rank 3 is Davao City. It's one of the most livable cities based on my dissertation results. Now, your content should be sufficient enough to cover all the details, but it should be not too short enough that would compromise the entire presentation. So it should contain the following elements, no? Introduction, review related literature, which is found in the introduction, the method, the result, discussion. Okay, number 5, perspective. Remember that we're investigating in the context of our selected samples. If in case you're going to discuss about financial statements of publicly listed companies, then your perspective shall cover that. Even a discussion of your results shall only cover in the samples that you have selected. You shall not transcend to samples that you did not include or international samples when your sample is intended to be Philippines. So perspective matters because that's where you tailor fit your discussion with the sample and the topic that you have selected. And finally is aim. Ano ba yung intention natin? What do we have in mind? Are we going to merely inform? Are we going to advocate? Are we going to solve a problem? Are we going to communicate findings to create public discourse? Our aim is to make them informed. And that's where recommendations and implications of your study come in. So your recommendations are not actually sufficient. No? Because your recommendations, kasi may mga school of thought na nagsasabi na, who are we to recommend? No? May mga panel na magsasabi ng ganyan na, bakit ka magre-recommend? Who are you in the first place? Are you an expert to recommend something like this? If in case magsasabi ka na, to the government, what you're going to do kay ang mong study, ganito, dapat ganito yung gawin. May mga recommendations pa that are very insisting, no? The government must, the local government officials should, the student researchers should, very insisting yung sound eh. So ang gagawin natin when you recommend is purely shall or shall take into consideration or can be recommended as an additional input or something like that. However, the school of thought of conventional researchers said that they do not accept recommendations, but they accept implications. Implication as a section of your discussion is very scholarly, considering that you're actually discussing the possible policy, business process, and research implications of your findings. Nakita natin na ganito yung pattern, so there would be an implication for decision making. So the policymakers in the company could actually use these information in order to improve their decision making. So if in case makita natin na meron siyang implication for research, then we can explore more on this. But it's not recommendatory sounding. So whatever your format is, make sure that the language, the audience, the tone, the content, the perspective, and the aim actually harmonizes with one another. Because when academic writing comes in, when academic writing is just the process of writing your research, what you're going to do is, the format is just the structure, the process is academic writing, but the intention should be very clear. Okay, let's proceed. So keywords in academic writing. So it includes planning, of course. No, if in case you'll be writing your research, planning is really something that could save you a lot of time. So ang ginagawa ko, ano yung target ko na number of pages sa aking research, no? For one, ang ginawa ko is dapat 15 to 20 because each of those paragraphs contain a synthesis of my readings of at least 5 to 10 authors. So what I do, I plan. Dapat ganitong araw, makatapos ako ng isang paragraph. Ang isang paragraph could take me for like, ang isang page has 3 paragraphs. So that means isang page, katong araw yan. That means 3 hours. That means if in case I would be doing 1 page for 3 days, and then I'm targeting 15 full pages of my related literature. So I can finish in more or less 45 days. So for related literature, nasusulat ko yan ng 45 days. If in case grupo kayo, it could be much easier. No? Kasi, of course, you assume that everyone has a specific assignment. Hindi pwede nang yung isang kaklase ninyo, petiks lang. Hindi yan pwede. So you plan ahead. It's a good review of related literature. When we say writing, that means you read and then you understand and then you write. Hindi, magsusulat ka ng review of related literature, pupunta ka sa isang database, and then what you're going to do is copy paste. Hindi ganon. Okay? When you write, you're actually encouraged to do critical thinking. So when we say critical thinking, that means when author 1 says X and author 2 says X sub 1 and author 3 says Y, so meaning to say X and X sub 1 could be related and Y is a different concept. You are not actually prone to copy pasting when you write your research, you make it a point of reading their concepts. Okay? So hindi din pwede na ang gagawin natin, babasa ka ng ato ang yung strategy natin. Uy, maganda yung paragraph na ito sa research na ganito, kopyahin ko ito. Hindi ganon. So, kung kokopyahin mo man yan, kailangan babasahin. Third one is referencing. So of course, it depends also on what profession you are. Kasi for psychology, for social sciences like education, for social work, they require APA or American Psychological Association. So we have the 7th version right now. But for business studies like economics, business, accounting, management, usually the citation style is Harvard. Okay, but some schools still use APA even if it's business studies. So I'm not so sure if they're aware with Chicago or Harvard or Turabian. Whatever suits the schools, referencing is important. When we say referencing, that means you're going to cite authors whose ideas you use in citing or in writing your research and acknowledge them in full in the bibliographic section or in the reference section. And then well-supported points. I'll be discussing this late in the next slides. No, well-supported points meaning to say you have a specific structure that you introduce a concept, you have an evidence, and then you had to explain the evidence, and then you conclude out from that sequence. And then evidence-based arguments, part of the structure, logical development, that means we're going to arrange our sentences in such a way that there's a progression, no? So our writing should be introductory, supporting of the introduction or the body, and then conclude. Much more that we're writing our essays. And then of course, grammar, no? So we have different tools and techniques to check our grammar. Okay, what's happening? Okay, so you know what paragraphs are, and paragraphs give your writing structure. So a paragraph consists of a normal paragraph in a research consists of 3 to 5 sentences only. So a paragraph that is only one sentence is like a marathon that never ends. Kung sa Bisaya pa na, it's hangak, no? Hangak siya basahon. I am beautiful considering that, you know, although blah 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 and according to, so napakahaba, no? So you have to break those paragraphs apart. Now paragraphs give you the structure of the research of your idea. Each paragraph should consist or cover one idea or one consists of a topic sentence. A number of support sentences. Take note of this. It consists of a topic sentence or an introductory sentence. Then a number of support sentences. It could be a couple of them, like a 1 or 2 sentences. and an optional concluding sentence. So it should be as long or as short as it needs to be to express the main idea of that paragraph. I'm not actually limiting you to write 3 to 5 sentences. If you reach 6 or 7, it's okay for as long as the paragraph makes sense. Kasi may mga possibilities kasi na kung mahaba masyado, pinapaseparate siya ng panel. You separate this one paragraph into 2 paragraphs para hindi naman siya mukhang crowded. So structure masyado yung thinking ng panel natin. But if in case we're talking here of a paragraph should make sense. It should contain the necessary information we need, in order to appreciate the topic sentence. So a topic sentence, contains the following. So it contains a topic and a controlling idea or the idea at hand. And then second one is the most general sentence in a paragraph. There is a general sentence that introduces the topic or the controlling idea. And then every sentence in the paragraph should support the topic sentence. So that being said, a topic sentence should not be too specific and it should not be too general, but just right. So for example, here, so we have the slang expression so long is likely a corrupted version of the Arab word for goodbye, salam. The too general is English has been influenced by many languages, but the just right version of this is that the Arabic origin of many English words is not always immediately apparent. So you see, it's actually, it's also sounds general. Okay, so we have here a format on what should I do after I have written my topic sentence, or if in case my thesis tayo, ano yung format or structure ng ating paragraphs. So we should include the following. So unang-una, letter P in red. This is the point you want to make in support of your topic. And why your evidence supports your points. Or that means contextualization of your evidence or explaining your evidence. And LC, or the black one, is linking or concluding sentence. It is used to reinforce your original point and link to your next point or your next paragraph. So this is how you write it. So for example, I'm going to read this one. The introduction of university education has also had a major impact on the role nurses play within patient care. This is your topic sentence. Now, the red one is the point, is that as nurses have been able to develop their knowledge and skills away from the worries and stress of the work environment, they have become more empowered and more confident in the workplace. He cited Stevens, 1990. As a result, they are more likely to offer their opinions as professionals and have a greater role in patient care. So that means this is your point. No, this is likely the red. This is the major issue, and then there is an issue of, and this is the major topic, and there's an issue or point about that topic sentence. Now, what's the evidence? So this is clearly demonstrated by the work of Mason 2003, who found that university-trained nurses were more likely to consult with doctors in trauma and pediatric wards than their hospital-trained counterparts. This is the green one. This is the evidence of the point that you're making. Now, explain. This is a change from the hospital-based educated nurses who were well-trained but played a relatively insignificant role in planning patient care. So that's the explanation of the findings of Mason, which is an evidence of the point that you made. Then you provided another evidence in her review analyzing the traits of nurses trained in hospitals rather than universities. Like there are 120 samples. Lihan, 2001, found that deference to authority, particularly in relation to the doctors, was expressed throughout their training when compared with university training. This is another evidence. Okay, so what you're going to do is to link and to conclude from those. Okay, so university education has therefore led to the advancement of the nursing profession, where nurses now have a voice in patient care plans. This is the linking and concluding sentence. However, it must be noted that because university education does not reflect the true nature of the working environment, students often have difficulty adjusting to other aspects of ward work. So this is conclusion-based evidences stated in the sentence. In the context of accounting education, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to highlight the topic sentence, carefully write or point out the point of view that you're going to express based on the topic sentence, provide evidences based on the readings that you have in your related literature, and then explain those findings, whether or not they're relevant to the point that you're making, and then link or conclude if in case it's making something else, or if it's making a point, or if it's making sense in your research. So don't worry, because I'll be providing this, no, I'll be providing this PowerPoint slides and the reference that I had so that you can use this in your research writing. Okay, so there's another one. No, it's adapted from the University of South Australia in 2005. It's the same thing. The sequences are still the same, and you might want to read this at your own time. Now, each of these sentences, remember that this paragraph is actually stemming from sentences. And a sentence is a sequence of words that begin with a capital letter and ends in a full stop. We do not use the word period in research. We use the word full stop. Okay? So the sentence must make sense as a single unit. So it should contain a subject and a predicate. And there's also a verb that connects the subject and the predicate. Okay? It could be a simple sentence, a compound sentence, or it can be a complex sentence for as long as it makes sense. Now here are some tips. However, these tips are lacking. It's coming short, so I'm sharing you something. No, so I'm sharing you something that is considered to be a hidden gem in the internet and that can help you in writing your research. And this is a show all windows and oops, this one. So if you want to make your lives easier, you might want to go to phrasebank.manchester.ac.uk. So the University of Manchester, introduced a gem for all researchers we call as academic phrase bank. An academic phrase bank contains strategies, techniques, and ways in writing your research, depending on the parts and depending on the purpose. So for example, for introduction, so my explanation sa introduction here, if you want to establish the importance of the topic for the accounting profession, click that one. You can have a format in writing that. It could be bank reconciliation has been instrumental in our understanding of financial management. That's how we introduce, or that's how we establish the importance of the topic for the discipline. Or the theory of demand and supply provides a useful account of how banana growers become successful in their trade of bananas in the locality and in the region. There's a format for that. If in case you want to explain the inadequacies of previous studies, you might want to include this. Previous studies of Bandura have not dealt with self-determination of faculty members in the context of online classes. Or most studies in the field of online teaching and learning have only focused on teachers and not students' outcomes. So there's a format for that. If you want to refer to sources, if in case you want to write a review related literature, we can also have the specific sources. like previous research or reference to a previous investigation time prominent. So like for example, if in case you want to cite the times, like for example, in 1990, Patel et al. Demonstrated that replacement of H2O with heavy water led to blank. So amo na ang mag-discuss ana sa continuation. Or in the 1950s, Gunnar Myrdal pointed to some of the ways in which bacteria can become beneficial in the blah, 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 and something like that. Or almost 20 years ago, Jones 1985 formulated his theory of forensic accounting centered around investigating inefficacies of financial statement presentation. So you see, there are different ways that that academic phrasing can help us in establishing our related literature. And more than that, also your methods or methodology, chapter 3, chapter 2. So if you want to describe the characteristics of your respondents or the sample, you might want to use just over half of the sample or 53% was female, of whom 69% were blank. Kayo na yung mag-fill in ng mga information. Or you can say that a random sample of patients with, like say, Alzheimer's or with engagement in the accounting profession was recruited from saan. So you're going to use these templates in order to do that. When you want to describe the process, like the sequence of words, meron din tayong template. In case you want to use the word following or after or prior to or once, there are specific templates here. Now, after the method, we have reporting results. So if you want to state a positive result, you can check these examples. If you want to report surveys and interviews, or like you're going to report the themes, so we have here 5 broad themes emerged from the analysis containing the following, or 2 divergent and often conflicting discourses emerged. So if in case you're going to do discourse analysis, or if in case you want to refer to a data in a table or chart, we can use figure 1 compares the summary statistics for, or table 1 shows the breakdown of X according to what, or the pie chart above shows the breakdown of what. So there's a template for that. Afterwards, punta tayo sa discussion. Meron din tayong templates. Like for example, if you want to indicate an unexpected outcome, we will say, contrary to expectations, this study did not find a significant difference between males and females on the issue of job satisfaction. Or contrary to expectations, this study did not or noted that CPAs who are 25 to 30 years old and CPAs who are 45 to 60 years old are not actually different on their perception on ethical practice of certified public accountants. So we have different templates here. So you might want to explore this. And finally, if you write conclusions. So when you write conclusions, when you want to restate the aims of the study, you can use these templates. If in case we will have summary. We also have these templates like multiple regression analysis revealed that the most obvious finding to emerge from the study is, or these experiments confirm that, or if you want to recognize the limitations of the current study, we can have these templates, or if we want to acknowledge limitations or setting out recommendations for practice or policy, or making recommendations for research work. So there are a lot of templates that you can choose from here. And if in case you want to have general language functions, the one that I'm telling you about, the 6 things, if you want to define terms, you have a template here. If you want to use signaling transition, or if you want to transition from one paragraph to the other paragraph, you can have set templates here. If in case you want to compare and contrast, we can also have templates here. And to give examples, we also have templates. So basically, academic phrase bank is an essential tool for us to conduct research. You know, if in case you want to make your lives easy, you want to make your research scholarly, these are methodologies not only for accounting students and researchers like you, but this applies to general research writing. And for one, academic academic phrase bank has been my secret gem in making research. And in fact, it's one of the easiest ways for you to write research, considering that the template is provided for you. You just have to fill in the necessary information or the context that you need, and then voila. After how many months, human na gyud nimo imong research. No, so you're free to check on this. If in case you want to have the link, I'll chat the link in the chat box, and then you're free to explore it whenever you want to. Okay. So I rest my slides. I rest my sharing screen, and I'm welcome to further questions.
And so if you have questions, guys, you can answer or chat it in the Zoom chat.
Sige, now, feel free to click on academic phrase bank if you want to, and you can really appreciate how important it is to have a guide in research. Kasi yung kulang talaga sa atin, when kasi estudyante tayo parehas eh. So when I was still at your age, when I was still in my very young and virile stage like you, kumbaga ang kulang sa ating mga researchers noon is talagang support and guidance. Sometimes pinagsasabihan lang tayo na maghanap lang kayo sa library, or kopyahin nyo lang kung ano yung available sa library tapos i-change nyo lang yung respondents, or mag-propose lang kayo ng tatlong title, basahin ko lang tapos tingnan ko kung anong approvehan natin, without actually being informed on the essential principles of writing research. And I share that sentiment with you because I learned research for personal personal engagement ko lang, or my personal time. Kumbaga naging hobby ko lang siya. So yun. So I hope that this time I was able to at least enlighten you in writing your accounting research. I know for one that accounting research in several universities are very rigorous, and I hope that the things that I introduced a while ago will help you, no, in making your lives easier. I'm not so sure from Josh if I will still be discussing statistical analysis because I have prepared some computation sets for everyone, and I will be allowing you to download a free software that can actually help you in basic statistical analysis. Any questions tayo? Huwag kayong mahiya. Or 11 na. Actually, magbe-breakfast pa ako. Hindi pa ako nakapag-breakfast eh. Sorry ah. So I'll give you 30 minutes. No, I'll give you 30 minutes to ask questions. Good morning, sir. So we're currently having our thesis this semester that requires a survey, and our respondents are college students. How can we conduct surveys in these times? Very good question, because I just did a lecture about this. How can we conduct surveys in these times of pandemic, since our movements are still limited and we really can't meet them? Are Google Forms enough or accepted as a valid form of survey for thesis writing? You correctly answered your question. Yes, it's valid. No, it's valid considering that we do not want to compromise you. In fact, there are certain studies that actually says that students or respondents are more comfortable answering questions when it's done virtually, because they might provide a different answer when you are there or face to face, no? So in fact, uso ngayon ang ginatawag nato na online phenomenology or online ethnography, like mag-interview ka in ani, no? But for quantitative stats or for quantitative surveys, Google Forms are okay. In fact, I did my dissertation using Qualtrics survey. It's an online survey. Kasi when I did my research, and my study is about University of Mindanao teachers and faculty members, I was in Australia back then. So ginawa ko, sinend ko yung link. So it's still fine. It's fine. For as long as You mentioned in your methodology that, uh, because this is pandemic and the movements are limited, we conducted our survey online in Google Form, and this link was distributed. And then you just make sure that you put all efforts, you exhaust all efforts to reach your respondents, even you are in your homes. Kasi sample size is also essential as a consideration in writing your thesis. Hindi pwede na 10 lang din yung respondents natin. No? So if in case Davao City, we should have a qualifier on how many sample respondents are we going to access in order for our study to become relevant in its results as well as its implications. So very good question, Gladys. Next one. I have 30 minutes. Mag-Q&A tayo. If in case you want to just voice out something, mas mabuti kung makikita ko yung mga faces natin, no? So I could appreciate if someone has the energy to show your face. Okay, anyone, sige, next one. Any question?
Guys, don't be shy, guys.
Okay, another one. I'll be showing to you another. I was bored during pandemic. Char bored daw, no? So I was super bored when I was during the pandemic, and might as well I want to share to you a research that I did during my boredom. No? Kasi it's a good example of a research which utilize secondary data. So, sir, pwede ba secondary data yung gagamitin namin sa research namin? Of course. For as long as you clearly narrate or clearly state your purpose as well as your intention of doing the research, it's acceptable. So, I'm sharing you briefly, this is my study. It's sense making of COVID-19 cases of the Philippines and implications for policy making. Okay, so here's my study. This is the coverage of my study. So, oh, sorry. For one, there have been several issues in epidemics modeling. No? So, COVID-19 in itself is actually not an epidemic since it's already widespread. No, it's not only in Wuhan. The case in Wuhan is an epidemic, but once it reaches the entire country and it reaches outside the country's borders, it now becomes a pandemic. Now, when you model studies like the case of SARS, the case of anthrax, there have been attempts to model epidemics so that we can understand the occurrence of these epidemics in the future. For one, there have been issues like identification of problems, of course, existence of literature review. Ano ba yung problem may mga epidemics kasi na kulang-kulang yung literature. Minsan, yung questions na yung hypothesis naman hindi clear, yung methodology kulang-kulang din. Of course, issue ito, data collection. Okay, yung collection ng data that can actually be used in forecasting. There are studies that did not attempted to present analysis and presentation, or if in case they did, it was very difficult to understand. And interpretation of findings are also issues in epidemics modeling research. And ang kulang talaga is dissemination of research findings. So where does the Philippines lie? So unang-una, increasing exponentially yung ating cases. In fact, in February, there are no cases. There's one case from the ground zero until it reaches 10, 20 until we reaches in April when I did my research, it now becomes like 4,000 plus. No? So that's how pandemic is worsening. So ilan na ba tayo ngayon? No? So based on the preliminary test, the model that we will use to forecast COVID-19 cases, since I'm doing research, ang statistical test na ginamit ko is autoregressive integrated moving average. And we found out that the perfect ARIMA model is P equals 1, D equals 2, and Q equals 1. So this is a statistical model. And I found out bakit ARIMA? So ang ARIMA was done because my intention is to provide an empirical analysis of the growth, trend, and possible cases, values of cases of COVID-19 cases in the Philippines, and to provide meaningful insights for national policymakers. So ito yung estimation procedure. Ang estimation procedure ko was done using ARIMA. So ito yung trend natin, no, from March. It's in fact first week of March wala pang cases, but umabot na sa napakaraming cases yung Philippines. And then how do we determine the best ARIMA model? So ARIMA or autoregressive integrated moving average, ito yung ginamit ko na technique to determine the kanang kuan, the possible number of cases that will actually happen in the future. I did the study April, that's why of course this is outdated, no? So I'm still going to update this one. So ang PDQ po, ang kailangan natin ang PDQ stands for the number of differences that have to be made. The P and the Q are actually the number of lags in the autocorrelation function kung saan dapat hindi na siya mag-i-exceed sa blue line. So bibilangin natin ang number of P's. 1 kasi nag-exceed siya sa blue. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 ang allowable number of P's. For Q naman, titingnan natin kung ilan ang lumampas sa blue. It's only 1. So the number of Q's is 1. Hence, the number of differences done is 2 kasi dalawa yung D, tapos P is 10 and Q is 1. Okay, so how do we check now the value of the forecast? Ito yung forecasted value. Ito, ang red dito is ang actual active cases. Ang blue is the forecasted value. So kung titingnan natin, these are cases from May, June, July, and August. And September na tayo ngayon. So kung ang ginawa natin is nag-total lockdown na walang movement talaga, ang cases will be eliminated sometime in August. Talagang mag-zero in ang cases. Kung nasa bahay lang talaga tayo, kung hindi mo gawas or hindi tayo lalabas. Pero talagang lalabas tayo kasi bibili tayo ng pagkain. Tapos meron tayong lockdown lifting of the restrictions. So what happened, instead of declining, it actually progressed like this. And if in case we will worsen, or if in case magpabuyag yun to, or we're going to deviate from the protocols, it will be expected to be higher than the blue one, which is actually this one. So as you can see, we can reach as high as 16,000 cases. Okay, we can reach as high as 16,000 cases if in case we're going to deviate from the protocols. So ito yung forecast values kasi these are my fearless forecasts when I did my forecast. This is 2020 April 1. So ito ang number of active cases, no? Now, ano yung prediction ko? By April 30, it could be more than 6,000 cases. However, the range could be between 3,300 cases at the minimum level or 9,300 cases at the most worst scenario. So the middle range is 6,300 cases, and look at our number of cases in April. You can see that the number of observations or the number of cases of COVID-19 were actually very close with this at 95% confidence intervals. So kung titingnan natin, yung scenario, makikita natin that COVID-19 studies are actually very novel studies. Sorry. Okay, kung titingnan natin, we can actually see that the study is original because it's new, it's relevant. Second one is there has been no attempt to model COVID-19 cases like that during the earliest stage of its onset. No? March and April, nagsulat na ko sa research, I presented it via public lecture in April. And then there have been attempts to explain why this piling of cases were happening. And then I used secondary data, I discussed that. And then ang implications na sinabi ko is that we're going to be very cautious in the timing of relaxing our restrictions. Kasi hindi naman pwede forever na nasa loob lang tayo ng bahay and we're going to rely on ayuda or magre-rely lang tayo sa groceries or relief. Hindi yun pwede. So we need to make it a point na kailangan at some point we're going to relax and then we're going to restrict and then we're going to revive the economy slowly para hindi naman tayo hindi malaki yung government spending masyado. So our economy can recover if in case we have movements already. Pero as you can see now, the piling of the cases are still exponential. So what we're going to do is just to ensure, or as recommended by my study, what we're going to do is to ensure that we're going to follow safety and health protocols in order to minimize and eradicate the unwarranted contracting of the virus. So yun, in our context of accounting research, you might want to use forecasting if in case we're going to forecast economic growth, or if in case we're going to check or to compare the growth of our economy in the past and compared it now, and we're going to decide on possible implications or policy implications out of that, then the use of secondary data is actually very welcome. But if in case you want to do survey research, as what Gladys has raised a while ago, it's possible, it's warranted, and it's scientific for as long as you explain it. You explain it. Hindi pwede na ang sasabihin niyo is survey mo, face-to-face physical survey, in times of pandemic, i-question kayo niyan. Posible nga siya, pero hindi siya pwede, no? Considering that it might violate certain LGU rules and regulations. So the use of Google Forms is okay. Even in the University of Mindanao, all our data collections are purely online. So it can be the use of secondary data, the use of Zoom and Google Meet to do interviews, and Google Forms or Qualtrics to capture in responses. Okay, any questions? 2 or 3 questions more, and then siguro we'll call it a lunch. And if in case may session pa ba ako mamaya or wala na? Kung wala na, that would be great. If in case meron, then prepare for calculators. Yes?
Yes, sir. Meron mamaya, sir. Session, sir, after.
Ano yung afternoon session?
Ano, sir? Basic, intermediate, and advanced statistical application for accounting research, sir.
Okay. Sige, we might have a compromise with that later kasi for sure you're excited or whatever. Anyway, any questions? I could have a compromise with that. Sige.
So guys, whenever you have questions, guys, go ask sir, guys.
In fact, meron akong actually, when I do my classes in statistics last summer, I recorded all my videos in basic to advanced statistics. So you might want to view my YouTube videos in my channel. In case you want to subscribe. But if you don't want to, it's fine. No, nara dito ako mga videos. It's like 45 minutes to 1.5 hours, depending on the statistical analysis that you have. And all of them are, all of them are utilizing statistical software that is free. So I can provide you the link later, and afterwards we might want to have a demonstration on how it is done. Again, any concerns about your thesis?
Okay guys, so tingin ko, try ko muna mag-roll call per school kung may questions kayo guys. So how about sa Lyceum Philippines of the Philippines University? Meron ba kayong questions dyan, guys?
Okay, from Lyceum.
Okay, so I think walang questions sa Lyceum of the Philippines. So how
Ateneo
about
muna.
Sige, sir. How about sa Ateneo de Davao University? Meron bang questions dyan, guys?
Okay, make Ateneo proud. May question kayo. For example, yung mga, I can only presume that if you don't have any questions, there are three things. Una, you already know the topic. Second one, you might have not been listening. You might, or you didn't listen to the entire proceedings, and you were just here physically, virtually present but physically absent. Or third one is you might be too shy to ask. So if in case you have questions, you might want to ask that in the chat box. Ask tayo ng questions kasi it's a very rare opportunity that somebody could actually guide you in the writing process. Later, we could have basic statistical analysis. So you will run down from descriptive to inferential ones.
Okay, so sa Ateneo, wala ba talagang questions? Okay, so move on muna ako sa ibang schools. So how about sa UM Digos? Meron ba kayong questions dyan, guys?
Oh yeah, I remember Amigos. So Amigos should make me proud.
Yes, sir.
So who's from Amigos here? Ano taga Amigos dito? My God.
Meron na namin nag-sign up sa kanila din, sir. So
Oh.
UM Digos, going once.
Doon ako nag-graduate, so huwag niyo ako ipahiya.
Okay, so move on muna tayo. How about Holy Cross of Davao College?
Questions na. Maglakaw na ta. Maglakaw na ta.
Holy Cross, meron ba kayong mga
Ay,
questions
maglakaw
dyan?
na ta. Maglakaw na ta. Tapos ka na. Okay.
Feel free to ask, guys. Kasi nandito pa si sir.
Oh, kasi, you know, the VP for External Relations has been asking me for lunch na. So you might want to ask questions.
So how about sa Jose Maria College?
Kasi I'm in the VP for External Relations now. Okay, very good. Very good. Ito si Gladys, the vocal. Saan university or college ito? Galing. Gladys? What college are you from?
Gladys, are you still there? Jose Maria.
Okay, Jose Maria College. For that, I'm going to give you an access to the free software that I would be doing later. Bibigyan ko yung Jose Maria kasi nagtanong si Gladys. So. Okay, Edsel Dusono, can you mention what university are you coming? Oh, Edsel, what can you advise? I thought I was reading letter S or letter. Okay, what can you advise to us if as we are going to engage or as we will be engaging accounting research in the future? Of course, kanina, I have been giving you several advices already, and that's for you to read. Kailangan magbasa talaga tayo. We really have to be original, and we can do that if in case we read. We do not copy others. We do not copy others. We think we can actually improve our critical thinking skills if we practice and if we research, and if in case we're going to focus our attention to the problems of the discipline in the accountancy or accounting. And of course, that could be one step already in solving an accounting research in the future. For one, Edsel, I would suggest that you need to download my slides again so that you can be refreshed on the discussions on originality as well as the research process done in academic writing. Gladys, any other questions? From UM Digos, walang taga UM Digos dito. Ako tatawagan ko yung director ninyo, hindi kayo nagtanong sa akin. Tatawagan ko yung program coordinator ninyo sa accountancy. Hindi kayo nag-participate. Best friend ko pa naman yun. Okay,
So how about sa
from
Main?
lalo na sa Main, gamitin ko yung former dean ninyo kahapon.
Main.
So asa na kayo? Susumuko kayo kay Dean Esther, hindi kayo magtatanong.
Meron bang mga
Anyone
Main
from
dito, guys?
Accountancy. Wag niyo ipahiya ang ating logo. You're from
Tingin ko wala yata sila, sir.
Okay. Sige. Siguro wala sila ngayon, no? Sige. Sige. As I'll be wrapping this up since later we're going to have basic, intermediate, and advanced accounting statistics for accounting. So we're going to end early for our session for today, and we have covered 1 and 2. So later, I'm going to discuss sampling methodologies, no, on how to compute sample size. Second one is what are the usual statistical analysis that are okay for undergraduate accounting students, and what data are needed, or what kind of data is needed for those statistical tools. I'll call it hindi naman I'll call it a day, no? Siguro, thank you very much for attending the first 2 sessions in different accounting methodologies, and that includes discussion of originality in research. Second one is a discussion on academic writing and the tips on how to improve our academic writing using academic phrase bank and some of the tools available in my slides. Don't worry, because I'll be providing the slides to the secretariat once we're done. And I think I'll see you later. No, because honestly, I haven't taken my breakfast yet, and I'll be taking lunch because it's like 30 minutes na lang, lunch na. So if in case you have questions, please kindly inform your organizer so that we can answer them before we start our second session. So Josh, I'm giving you the entire floor.
Okay, so thank you, sir. So guys, yun nga pala ang talk ni sir, and yun, dito sa aking side is nag-notes talaga ako. Yan, kita niyo yan, guys. Nagsulat talaga ako. So, siyempre, gusto ko rin take note kung ano yung sinabi ni sir. And I hope, guys, na kayo diyan is meron kayong nakuha rin sa discussion natin regarding accounting research methodologies for accounting studies. So, since it's almost lunchtime, so tingin ko marami talaga, or most of us di masyado nakakain ng mabuti sa breakfast. So I guess we can quickly end this. Sure. So guys, I hope that I will see you 2 p.m. So we will be, Sir John will be discussing basic, intermediate, and statistical techniques, applications in accounting studies. So yun siya, guys. So I think that's all, guys. So I hope that you will have eat a great lunch. And I am Joshua Noel Bichagan, host for the day, and hope to see you later. Thank you, guys, and God bless.
Thank you, Josh. See you later. Bye.
Guys.